Good morning.
Good morning.
So today we're talking about the Beatitudes Part 2. There we go. During the month of May, we are focusing on our attitude and whether it is, as Ernest Holmes, the founder of religious science, once wrote, toward a real unity with spirit. Specifically this morning, we're going to continue to look at our 8 attitudes of being that were taught by that great Jewish religious scientist who walked the earth a little over 2,000 years ago. So we're going to look at how we began last week. One of Jesus' most famous teachings is found in what is known as the Sermon on the Mount, which opens with the 8 Beatitudes. And even people who don't know much about the Judeo-Christian scripture are most likely aware of the Beatitudes. We've all heard of the Beatitudes, right? Yeah, maybe, okay. But whether they know what they say, or more importantly, what they really mean, well, that can be another story. Emmett Fox, and this is a name you want to remember because he's amazing. He has a little book that's called The Sermon on the Mount, Keys for Successful Living, suggests that the Beatitudes are a general summary of the whole Christian teaching and that they teach us the attitudes of being. What he's really saying is this is a metaphysical look at what Jesus was telling us. For the master teacher, Jesus knew that if our attitudes are right, which means aligned with real unity of spirit, everything else must be all right too. But if our attitudes are wrong, if they're misaligned, nothing else can be right. Remember that. If our attitudes are not in the right place, if they're misaligned, nothing else in our life is going to be all right. So today we're going to look at the second 4 Beatitudes, or the attitudes of being, looking deep into the words that are used, going beyond the surface of the obvious meaning. But before we take a look at the second 4, let's do 2 things. First, I want to redefine again, as I did last week, the word blessed. And then I'll do a brief, very, very brief review of the first 4. So remember that according to Webster's dictionary, blessed means to invoke divine favor upon. That's what being blessed means, to invoke divine favor upon. Why? Because these attitudes make God happy? No, that's not what that means. It means because they align us with universal harmony. Having the right attitude aligns us, keeps us in harmony with the universe. They align us with the creative flow of life. You know how it feels when you're in that flow and everything just fits? It's wonderful. They align us with the innate goodness of the presence of spirit. And when we know we're in that place, it's a good feeling, isn't it? And that's why divine favor is called forth, because everything's in place. Remember, if our attitudes are aligned right with unity, with real unity with spirit, everything else must be right too. And we will be blessed. We will be blessed. So let's look at the first 4. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven, meaning heavenly bliss is invoked upon us when we set aside preconceived notions that prevent us from connecting with our source. In other words, we need to get our bloated nothingness out of the way and stay connected. Get whatever we think is going on, the stories in our minds that we're making up, we need to get those out of the way and stay on truth, stay on track. Number 2, blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted, inviting us to allow our troubles, or the appearance of our troubles, to take us to a place where we can more deeply experience the presence of God. In other words, a lot of times our challenges, our troubles, our problems appear in our lives to wake us up. And when we are awakened and we realize that we're out of alignment, then we can bring ourselves back into that. So we can actually say, thank you. Thank you for appearing in my life and helping me to remember what is true. Number 3, blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth, teaching us how to be manifestors. And that's not really a word, but I like it. How to be manifestors in this world by being open-minded, having faith in God, and knowing that the will of God for us is always something joyous and interesting and vital and much better than anything that we could ever think of for ourselves. Sometimes we're so disappointed because we didn't get what we want, only to realize that something greater was waiting for us. And we went, whew. What is the Garth Brooks song? You know, thank God for unanswered prayers. I thank God for unanswered
I
prayers.
got friends in low places.
No, well, there's that one too, but you know.
That one too.
That comes later. All right, so number 4 from last week. Blessed are they that hunger and thirst after righteousness, for they shall be filled. Meaning those who continually seek to engage in right thinking, just as we continue to satisfy our physical hunger and thirst, shall have lives transformed. And if you weren't here last week and would like to hear more on those 4 Beatitudes, you can listen to my talk on the website. It should be up. I downloaded it yesterday, so it should be there. Okay, so the 4 Beatitudes, attitudes of being, that we're going to explore today are: blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. And blessed are they which are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And I've added one because I can do that, you know. Blessed are the flexible, for they shall not be bent out of shape.
Yeah.
Okay, that one needs no deeper exploration. So we're going to stick to the last 4, actually, that Jesus proclaimed. So let's take a look at the first one today. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. About this beatitude, Emmett Fox writes, as it stands, this beatitude calls for little comment, because the words employed bear the ordinary meaning which we still give them in daily life. And the statement as given is as clear and as obvious in its meaning as the law in question is as simple and inflexible in its action. This beatitude is about cause and effect at its purest. What we give out, we get back. As we sow, so shall we reap. What we are to the world is to us. And what goes around comes around, exactly. We know this idea well, whether we've studied metaphysics or not. So is there a deeper place to go with this beatitude? I think so. The thing that really matters is that you be merciful, not in just your deeds, but more importantly, in your thought. Okay, Fox writes, kind actions coupled with unkind thoughts are hypocrisy. They are counterfeits, and they bless neither the giver nor the recipient. Why? Because we can't fool Mother Nature. We cannot think something and do something different. Remember that old margarine commercial, where, I can't fool Mother. Okay. The law is activated by our consciousness. That's how the law is activated. Our thoughts, our feelings, beliefs, attitudes, values, and only, finally, our actions. If our actions are not aligned with all the rest of these things, which do you think will be causative in our lives? Which will activate the law? In many Center for Spiritual Living churches, a practitioner is assigned to sit in the back, and they're assigned to do what is called holding the high watch, keeping the consciousness of the center focused in spirit. Notice I didn't say on spirit, focused in spirit, because we're all within spirit, aren't we? We understand that the power of the spiritual ideal, and frankly, this means that we have a responsibility that others do not. We know how powerful our thoughts are. We know that what we think creates. So we have a responsibility. So when you open the newspaper and can see the headlines as one giant prayer request, instead of feeling that gut reaction to what you're reading, then we know that we're making a difference. When you see those things that come up right in your face. Several years ago, David Hawken, he's the one who wrote The Power versus Force, did a session at a conference. It was a New Thought conference, and it was called By God, It's Actually Working. I love that. By God, it's actually working. Because I think sometimes when we do a treatment or we do affirmations and we see something change, we're a little surprised, aren't we? Think, oh, wow, hey, this worked. Yet we know at an intellectual level that it does work, don't we? Okay. And he described this session that in the brochure, and it said, appearance is not essence. Despite the focus of the media on the negativity of world events, the overall level of consciousness in America and the world is confirmably advancing. The collective spiritual intention, via the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, has collapsed the wave function from potentiality to actuality and raised the calibrated level of consciousness of mankind overall, to be demonstrated in this session, By our collective effort, we have raised the overall levels of man's sea of consciousness, which then, effortlessly, lifts all the human corks and ships afloat. Is that amazing? As we are a blessing, we are blessed. Our thoughts are making a difference in this world. We are contributing to the rising up of consciousness, world consciousness. So on to number 2. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. The words in this beatitude are used in a technical sense and cover a far wider meaning than we attach to them in everyday life. Look at the promise, to see God. To see God means to have a spiritual perception, and spiritual perception means just that capacity to comprehend the true nature of being, which I think most of us sometimes struggle with. We live in God's world, but we do not in the least know it as it is. Heaven lies all about us. It's not a distant place somewhere far away in the skies, but it's all around us right here, right now. We're immersed in heaven. But because we're lacking in a little bit of this spiritual perception, we're unable to recognize it, or maybe unable to recognize it all of the time. And we're unable to experience it. And therefore, so far as we are concerned, we may have been shut out of heaven. We're like the fish who asks, "What is water?" Think about that. He's immersed in it. What is water? Our task is to surmount our limited seeing until we reach the point where we can know things as they really are. Experience heaven as it really is. That's where our meditation comes in, right? That's what we mean by seeing God. To see God is to comprehend truth as it really is, and this is infinite freedom and perfect bliss. That's what meditation brings to you, that perfect bliss. In this wonderful beatitude, we're told exactly how this supreme task is to be accomplished and who they are who shall do it. They are the pure in heart. Can't be complaining about, your next door neighbor and the noise they're making with their car at 7 o'clock in the morning and be in a state of bliss, can we? No. Again, we have to understand that the word pure must be taken in a very much wider sense than what it's commonly attributed to today. Pure means a very great deal more than just the physical purity. In its full, complete sense, purity is recognizing God alone as the only real cause and the only real power in existence. Jesus speaks of the pure of heart. The word heart in the Bible usually means that part of our mentality which modern psychology knows as subconscious mind. This is exceedingly important because it's not sufficient for us to accept the truth on just the conscious level, with just the conscious mind only. At that stage, it's just a mere opinion. Your consciousness is just, I think this. It's just your opinion. It's not until it's accepted by the subconscious mind, the heart, and thus assimilated into the whole mentality, your whole being, that it can make any difference in one's character or life. There was a small child with a bad cough, and he was taken by her parents. She was taken by her parents to the hospital emergency room. A nurse was examining the child's lung with a stethoscope, and she told the child, "I have to see if Barney is in there." Do you remember Barney, the purple dinosaur? Little annoying, my kids loved him. Okay. So the little girl replied, "I have Jesus in my heart. Barney's on my underwear." Most people have all kinds of knowledge that does not, in the least, affect or improve their practical lives. Head knowledge is not enough. Just knowing it up here is not enough. We need heart knowledge, and Patricia would be going, yes! I know she would, because she's into the heart math and that connection between the mind and body, the mind and heart. We need heart knowledge before we can see God. This beatitude could be paraphrased to read, "Blessed are they who recognize God as the only real cause and the only real presence and the only real power, not merely in a theoretical or formal way, but practically and specifically and wholeheartedly in all their thoughts and words and actions, and not merely in some part of their lives, but in every nook and corner of their lives and mentalities, for they shall overcome all limitations of time and space and matter and carnal mind, and realize and enjoy the presence of God forever." Does that sound amazing? I want that. Do you want that? I think that's amazing. So let's go on to Beatitude number 3. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. Sons and daughters of God. If we look at this beatitude casually, we might think that it's a mere religious generalization, perhaps even a platitude. But the peacemakers spoken of in this beatitude are those who first, and this is important, make or bring about true peace or serenity where? With themselves, within their own souls, because that's the only place we can start. It's the only place we have any power is with our own souls. This condition of mind is the objective at which he gives us in the Sermon on the Mount and elsewhere. When he says, "Peace I leave with you. My peace I give unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid." As long as there is fear or resentment or any trouble in your heart, that is to say, as long as you lack serenity or peace, it is not possible for you to attain very much. Emmett Fox writes, "Those who bring about true peace or serenity in their souls, it is they who surmount the limitation and are like unto God, and then be a peacemaker in the world." We must be the peace we want to see in the world. Of course, to be a peacemaker in the usual sense of composing the quarrels of other people is an excellent thing. But, as all practical people know, an excessively difficult role to fill. By interfering in other people's strife, it is ever so much easier to make things worse than to make them better. Have you ever tried to fix someone else's problem and it just kind of blew up? Yeah. Personal opinion is almost certain to enter into your efforts, and personal opinion is exceedingly likely to be wrong. Wow. Boy, that kind of goes right up against my ego, because I really think I know what's right for everybody else. Or not. So it's a good one to realize and recognize when you are caught up in someone else's drama and you start feeling their angst, to go back to that place within peace within you, because your peace will add to theirs much faster than your opinion will bring them to peace. Instead of a wise man, actually, I was going to talk about Greg Bayer's real love definition. This is Greg Bayer's real love definition. Real love is caring about happiness, the happiness of another person without any thought for what we might get for ourselves. So, wise man, this is Greg Bayer's real love definition. Real love is caring about the happiness of another person without any thought for what we might get for ourselves. That's pretty amazing. So finally, what we can do is have a prayerful attitude toward peace. Make that a part of your daily meditation or prayer practice, because we know that what we focus on, we attract more of into our lives. So we want to attract more peace in our lives. We must first focus on that peace. So number 4, finally, we're going to get to, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Okay, ouch. This is not said in a way that feels good at all right? Okay, so in a view of what we know about the essential characters of the teachings of Jesus, that the will of God for us is harmony, peace, and joy, and that these things are to be attained by cultivating right thoughts or righteousness, as we learned last week. This seems to be a startling statement. It seems to be a little contradictory, doesn't it? Jesus tells us again and again, it is our Father's good pleasure to give us the kingdom, and that the way in which we are to receive it is by cultivating serenity or peace of the soul. He says that the peacemakers are doing this. Praying in meekness, shall obtain prosperity, shall inherit the earth, have their mourning as in mourning, turned into joy, and that in fact, whatever they ask the Father in the manner of his teaching, that he will do. Yet, here we're told that it is blessed to be persecuted as the result of our right thinking or righteousness, for this means that we shall triumph. This isn't making any sense. And it's indeed very startling to read something like that. But Emmett Fox suggests that Jesus wants us to understand that the source of all this persecution, here's the key right here, is none other than ourselves. Who beats up on you more than anybody? It's yourself, isn't it? When we find righteousness or right thinking very difficult, when we are very strongly tempted to hold the wrong thoughts about some situation or some person or about ourselves, to give way to fear or anger or despondence, then we are being persecuted for righteousness' sake. And this is for us an extremely fortunate or blessed condition, for it is in such moments that we are really advancing. Every spiritual treatment or scientific prayer involves a tussle with our own lower self, which wishes to indulge in the old habit of thought, and in fact persecutes and reviles us. This is our ego, that voice that says, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to have a new car? Who do you think you are to get that perfect job or to go on that wonderful vacation? You know, this is the one that's arguing with us when we're thinking, wow, I really want to get those shoes. Do you really need them? Do you really need those shoes? You know, but it's like, it's an interesting thing. Now, since these battles with the lower self or ego have to be fought out sooner or later, then the sooner they are over and done with, the better. And so, relatively speaking, they are great blessings. So when we recognize that we're the ones persecuting ourselves and get that battle over with, then it's done. Then it's done, and it is truly a blessing. I've had experiences in doing my treatment or affirmative prayer for something, and everything, many things, unlike it comes up right in my face that I need to heal before I can get to what it is I think it is I want. You know, it's along the lines of treating for prosperity and losing your wallet. Does anybody have that happen? You know, things happen like that. It's just amazing what comes to you, you know, when you're treating for something that needs to be healed before you can get to those areas. As I overcome the persecuting mind of unbelief, the kingdom of oneness is mine. So let's review. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. And finally, blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We recognize that all that is not real and get our focus back on. I want to conclude this two-part lesson with the words of Emmett Fox, because these words offer us a great challenge. He says, if you really do wish to alter your life, if you really do wish to change yourself, to become a different person altogether in the sight of God and man, if you really do want health and peace of mind and spiritual development, then Jesus in his Sermon on the Mount has clearly shown you how it is to be done. The task is not an easy one, but we know that it can be accomplished because there are those who have done it. But the price must be paid, and the price is the actual carrying out of these principles in every corner of your life and in every daily transaction, whether you wish to or not, and more particularly, where you would much rather not. If you are prepared to pay that price to break really and truly with the old and start upon the creation of the new, then the study of the great Sermon on the Mount will indeed be to you the mountain of liberation. Let this study we've done for the past 2 weeks be your mountain of liberation as you embody each of these attitudes, each of which moves you towards a greater unity, a greater oneness, a greater and deeper connection with Spirit, the one and only power. And so it is.